Yeah.
Thank you for joining us and welcome to today's Candidate Forum, brought to you in partnership with the City of Club of Central Oregon and the League of Women Voters Deschutes County, two organizations that are passionately nonpartisan and whose purpose today is to engage and inform Oregon voters for the general election. Today we are hosting the candidates for Redmond Mayor. My name is Kim Scott-Smith, past president of the League of Women Voters of Deschutes County, and I am honored to serve as our moderator today. First, I'd like to give a quick shout out to City Club's annual sponsors. Without their support, we would not be able to bring you today's program. Our sponsors for the entire series of candidate forums are the Deschutes Public Library and Buchanan Schmidt LLC and City Club of Central Oregon and the League of Women Voters of Deschutes County. We are grateful for all the support for these educational forums. Today's live stream is also made possible by Connect Central Oregon, a nonprofit launched with the assistance of OSU Cascades Innovation CoLab. A special thank you to our tech guru, Scott Breeze. If you are interested in supporting City Club or the League of Women Voters, please check out our websites to get more information. Our candidate forums are conducted according to the League of Women Voters guidelines. All candidates filed in their races are invited to participate in our forums, and we hope to present voters with all participants. In the interest of fairness, we do not let an RSVP of regrets cancel a forum. Thank you to the Redmond mayoral candidates for participating in today's forum. We appreciate the gravity of committing to run for office, and our goal is to provide an opportunity for fair and civil discourse. We will start with opening statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves in their opening remarks, and for each question, each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer. At the end, each candidate may give a 2-minute closing statement. For opening statements, we have randomly selected the order, and closing statements will be in the reverse. Questions will be asked in a rotating manner. We would like to thank everyone who sent in questions for the candidates via the League of Women of Deschutes website. So let's get started. We will start with Charles Baer. And now, would you like to do your opening statement now? Charles, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters of Deschutes County. Thank you very much. You always do a fantastic job. I'd like to thank Mayor George Endicott for being a great mayor of Redmond and doing a fantastic job. And I'd like to thank Tanner Robertson for his service to this country and for him running for mayor. I think it's great that a new generation is getting involved in politics and bringing fresh ideas to the table. My name is Charles Webster Baer. I'm running for mayor of Redmond, Oregon in 2020. I would appreciate your vote. I'm running for mayor for many different reasons. One reason is that I think that Redmond, Oregon has a very bright future. And I think that Redmond, Oregon has an opportunity to lead the world in the two most important political issues of this millennium. Number one would be environmentalism, and number two would be transparency. And I think I offer the voters of Redmond, Oregon a different option. And I think that it's time for Oregonians to stand up and lead by example. And I'm just very happy to be here, very happy to be participating in this fantastic election. And I just would like to thank everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles, for that opening statement. Next will be Tanner Robertson.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you to the League of Women Voters and the County Club for facilitating this great opportunity to learn about our candidates, to participate, for our citizens to be educated and feel engaged. I am from Redmond. I went to Redmond High School, and at the conclusion of Redmond High School, I had the honor to attend West Point and graduate and commission as an Army officer, where I served for 6 years in military intelligence. Following my service, I came home to Redmond, the town that I love, And my family opened a small business called General Duffy's Water Hole, where we invite people from our community to come and enjoy a family-focused, safe, uplifting atmosphere. As a small business owner, I have had the difficulty of seeing many businesses, many buildings, and family-owned businesses go down under during the crisis. And we need to be inviting, we need to be safe, we need to be encouraging new businesses to come to town. We're also need to be satisfying with all these new families moving into Redmond. It's exciting, but we need to be satisfying our children's needs. Mom and dad need to be able to satisfy their children's needs for family recreation, for instance. That is a big key gap here in Redmond. We need to continue to work on our infrastructure and intelligently grow as a city so that people find Redmond very accessible and easy to move around, that they want to be encouraged and have their business here. So I hope that you look into inviting a new leader into the mayoral position, somebody that is motivated and ready to build teams and also ready to listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanner. Next, George Endicott. George, you need to unmute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you all for participating in this. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and the City Club of Central Oregon for hosting this event. I've been mayor now for 12 years. I am a native of Redmond. I spent my formative years here and then left for my career and came back home to retire and participate. I've been involved in civic engagement actually since the 70s, where I helped to form a city. And when I got home, I approached our current mayor and expressed my interest in getting involved. And of course, he readily looked at my credentials and said, of course. So I went on the planning commission. I was then on council. And as I mentioned, I've been mayor for 12 years. And why do I keep doing this? Well, I love Redmond. It's my home. I've lived literally all over the world and all over the United States, and I find nowhere better. Redmond is a very successful community. We just heard about some of the satisfactions with Redmond. We just finished a satisfaction survey. Redmond's running at 79%. We're running at 83% on our parks and open space for satisfaction. Redmond's considered a very safe city, 80% support for our police, and I want to continue that. I'm a true believer in living wage jobs. We currently have an 88% increase in manufacturing jobs in the last 10 years and a 97% increase in wages. I want to see that continue. I have been a force to lead that effort, and I have every intention on planning on continuing to see Redmond prosper, not only downtown, but everywhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all the candidates for their opening statements. Next, we will begin with the questions from the League of Women Voters and then also from audience that have sent in the questions before. Our first question will go to Tanner. And the first question is, what do you see as the primary role of the mayor of Redmond? You have 2 minutes.
So the primary role of mayor, I believe, is to be a leader, to be inspiring, to build teams. Our city council recently has been very divisive. I think being a champion of solving problems is key to being mayor. Inviting discussion and participation from our citizens. They know what value means to them. They know what their needs are, and satisfying that engagement, that dialogue is very critical to championing what the citizens of Redmond desire their city to be. As mayor, it's important to ensure that this is a safe, inclusive community, that people from all ages and backgrounds and religions and races are dignified, that they feel safe, that they can come forward and know and engage and access their leaders. That's also important for businesses. When businesses want to choose a growing city like Redmond, they want to feel that their leaders are engaged, that they know them, that they're accessible. it's important as mayor and as a leader that I'm out listening to the people of Redmond and ensuring that they're safe, healthy, that these surveys are, we're a learning organization, that when we're not satisfying the needs, that we're improving. When we are satisfying the needs, then we are maintaining. And so I think just being a leader and facilitating teams and good dialogue, both on the council and within our citizenship, it's important that we facilitate a great dialogue and start solving problems, not being divisive, but bringing people together, ideas forward, and executing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. George, your opening statement, or what do you see as the primary role for the mayor of Redmond? Thank you.
Well, the role of the mayor is really twofold. One is the rules as they exist. If you go read our charter, go read our ordinances and read our city policies, we do have statements in there that are very explicit in what the role of the mayor is in terms of city government. The mayor has two functions: to run meetings and establish the agenda for those meetings and do all of the appointments for the committees and commissions with concurrence of the council. I do that very well. I have been doing that for a long time. Obviously, I've appointed hundreds of people to the various committees and commissions. We have 10 of those in Redmond, and every year we have to fill those. The average number is 7. We have a couple that go up to 9. In terms of community engagement, I invariably get calls when a new company wants to come to town and explore Redmond. Would I meet with the principals of that company? And the answer has always been, of course. And I've done that many, many times. You look at some of the major companies in town right now. I have personal relationships with the head of Basics, with the head of Medline, with the head of many of the other businesses in town. I meet with them all the time. When this coronavirus hit and the governor first opened up the communities, I went downtown personally and walked up and down 5th and 6th Street to meet with the business owners to remind them what the rules were going to be about engagement with the public, see if there was anything we could do for them as a city. Secondly, we do things like urban renewal districts that support the downtown businesses. And in fact, Tanner from General Duffy's has been a recipient of one of those big awards to help them get started as a small business in Redmond.
Thank you for your comment on that. And finally, Charles, what do you see as the primary role of the mayor of Redmond?
Well, I think the primary goal of the mayor of Redmond is to bring the community together and make sure that Redmond continues to be a prosperous, safe, healthy city for everyone. And I totally agree with what George and Tanner just said. And rather than repeat what they just said, I will say that if I am elected mayor of Redmond, one of the first things I'll do, and one of my main priorities, will be transparency for the government of the city of Redmond. And when I say that, I'm talking about government fiscal transparency. I think this is a major issue. And what I'll do is I will make every financial transaction by the government of the city of Redmond public, online, immediately for everyone to see. Now, maybe this is happening right now. And if it is, that's great. And once this has occurred to my satisfaction, I'll do the exact same thing for Deschutes County. And then when I've completed that, I'll do the exact same thing for the state of Oregon. And when I've completed that, I'll do the exact same thing for America. And then when I've completed that, I'll do the exact same thing for the planet. And this is one example of Redmond, Oregon having the opportunity to lead the world in a major political issue, government fiscal transparency for everybody on the planet. And I think that would benefit everybody. And I also think it would be a lot of fun. And I'm willing to do it myself for free, but I'd also be willing to make it part of the Oregon state government. And either way is good for me, and I'm very excited. I'll be very excited and motivated to have that opportunity. Thank you very much.
On to the next question. George, you'll be the first to answer this one. Do you support the relocation of police funds, or otherwise known as defund the police, into other community services to aid the police, such as in situations involving domestic violence or mental health issues?
Okay, thank you for the question, Kim. I do not. I could see augmenting the money that we currently put into public safety. I don't see any reason to divert money from our current public safety. We are already 2 officers short of what we should be because of the coronavirus. We were destined to hire 3 officers this year. We've only been able to hire 1, so we're already 2 short of our officer corps. However, I do think that our officers spend an inordinate amount of time having to deal with people with such as mental health issues. The county opened up a facility earlier this year that allows for intervention with those with mental health issues, so that we don't turn those into a police action, but instead turn those into a civic action, where those people can go into a center, try and stand down, collect themselves, and not have to go through some sort of a criminal activity. So I fully support that effort. We are part of that. We have been, but in a final analysis, I do not think we should divert funds from our police force. We already feel we're short. And so to take money from that effort would not help the city in terms of safety. I've already heard my fellow candidates talk about public safety as a top priority. It certainly is one of my top 4. And so I'm going to fully commit to continuing the full support of our public safety and our police officers.
Thank you very much for your answer. And that, Charles, you're next. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Please.
Do you support the reallocation of police funds, otherwise known as defund the police, into other community services to aid the police, such as in situations involving domestic violence or mental health issues?
No. I support the police 100%, and on many issues regarding the police, I would defer to the police chief. I think the police do spend a lot of their time dealing with people who have mental health issues, and there probably should be, and there probably is, social workers who can do that rather than send the police. A lot of times the police deal with, say, for example, a homeless person. Perhaps social workers could deal with a homeless person who has mental health issues rather than the police, because police issues and social work issues tend to be 2 different things, and it seems that the police oftentimes are doing non-police work, dealing with people with mental issues and such. So I would not divert any money from the police. I'm sure the police and the social workers work together, and there are many different options, many different things that can be done in this regard, but I would not divert any funds from the police chief or from the police department, and for the most part, I would merely allow the chief of police of Redmond to dictate policy for the Redmond police. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your answer. Tanner, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Do you support the reallocation of police funds, otherwise known as defund the police, into other community services to aid the police, such as in situations involving domestic violence or mental health issues?
Thank you for your question, Kim, or from from the forum. I am pro law enforcement. In fact, I think we ought to be honoring our uniformed men and women who put the uniform on and serve at the pleasure of our people for our security 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And I would like to be a champion of the Redmond Police Department. If they're asking for more officers, I fully support that. I want to be an advocate of our law enforcement. I want to resource them. I know that they are the best professionals for determining how to allocate their own funds. And I believe that it is a holistic community effort in managing mental illness, homelessness. We need to be finding creative solutions for that. Expecting our officers to be on the street solving mental illness problems that are not necessarily tied to their profession, their role as a law enforcement officer, over and over and over again, extending that time and that resource. We need to dialogue about how to solve that problem creatively, not taking money out of our Redmond Police Department. Defunding the police, I think, is going in the wrong direction. So mental illness, homelessness, the subsequent issues and problems in our society, I don't necessarily think that the law enforcement is the most suitable solution for that. We need to dialogue, bring that into light, table that, invite collaboration and nonprofits so that we can find meaningful solutions and support our law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Our next question, Charles, you'll be first. What guidelines would you follow to balance the impact of COVID-19 on community health versus the impacts on small businesses?
Okay, well, obviously this is a very big issue, and this issue hopefully will get smaller, but first of all, I think I'd just like to say that I think Kate Brown has handled the COVID the COVID virus problem. I think she's handled it very well. I think Kate Brown has decided to play it safe, and I think that's the right call. I think that people should wear masks inside in public places. I think that's the right thing. I think when you wear a mask, you're protecting yourself from others, but you're also protecting others from you. And so I think masks are great. However, when I walk outside, and I think most Central Oregons agree, when you're outside, that masks are optional, okay? If you want to wear a mask outside, that's great. If you don't want to wear a mask outside, I don't have a problem with that. I think it's okay. I think people should be allowed to choose whether or not they want to wear a mask outside or not. I think most Central Oregonians agree with that. And, but certainly we want to follow the science on this. We want to play it safe. And COVID is a major situation worldwide. And hopefully we can get it under control here eventually. But until we do, we need to take all the precautions we can: social distancing, masks, washing your hands, et cetera, and we need to listen to the scientists, and we need to just have common sense. But I think if you're outside, I think if you want to wear a mask, great, and if you don't, that's okay too. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Tanner, you're next. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
What guidelines would you follow to balance the impact of COVID-19 on community health versus the impacts on small businesses?
So I think that we need to be a little bit more leaning into opening and leaning, obviously, always being safe, but not at the, we need to be safe, but not at the expense of shutting down our downtown, our businesses. I think our liberties are important. We need to be exercising our right to be out, to be in assembly with each other, to have meetings, to have dialogue, to go dine. to be at the gym. These are important parts of our culture, our society, our mental and emotional stability. We need to, of course, be safe. So how that happens, I trust the citizens of Redmond and the business owners that they are all trying to do their best, trying to be accessible, trying to be open. If mass is the way to do it, then so be it. I think that these mitigations and measures, and I know a lot of people share these beliefs, that they haven't really hit at the heart of it. We need to be making decisions based on the existing threat here in Redmond and on the consequences of that threat, not arbitrary mitigations or shutdowns. We need to be leaning forward towards kids being at school. We need to be leaning forward towards businesses being open. There's real lives that have been damaged by purely the decisions that have been made. And we need to be going back aggressively towards having a safe reintroduction, reopening of our downtown, of our city, and of our schools. It's paramount. We cannot live like this. And I believe that we can find creative solutions to do a reintroduction and opening safely. Thank you.
Thank you. George, same question. Would you like me to repeat it? George, you need to unmute.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm fine with the question. We certainly should follow the safety protocols that have been established by the scientific community. You know, keeping a distance when you get close, put on a mask, wash your hands, and so forth. All of those I agree with. But I'm going to put a little bit different spin on this. When it came time for the governor to make her decisions on how to open up the state of Oregon, I was part of that discussion. I've been on many of her conference calls, and the good news is that because I have a long-term relationship with the governor and know her personally, that I was able to influence one of her major decisions, which affected a lot of our community. Her original intent was to only allow restaurants to open and not allow bars, tap houses, and breweries to open. I convinced her that that was the wrong approach, that she seemed convinced that people standing at bars would be the issue because they would get too close and maybe imbibe a little too much and forget the rules. So if the issue was sitting versus standing, then make that the issue and not make the name of a facility the issue. She agreed with that. And as a consequence, when she opened the restaurants, she also at the same time allowed the bars, the tap houses, and the breweries to open, again, following knee distancing and other safety protocols. So I was really proud of being able to influence her in that regard. And as far as the other businesses, I'll briefly state what I said before, and that is that when the town started opening, I went up and down the streets, meeting with businesses, talking to them about how they were doing, make sure you follow the rules and so forth. So I have been fully engaged throughout this whole pandemic with our community and how to handle it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next question, and Tanner, you'll be the first to answer this. Do you have recommendations that would address the homeless situation, including the large young homeless population in Redmond?
Thank you. I think that is a really important question for the city of Redmond as we grow, as we invite people from all over to come to our community and call Redmond their home. We will experience more homelessness, and that's a sad reality of a growing city, and it's not something that I recall growing up here. But a virtue of the people of a city is how they treat their most vulnerable, how they treat those that cannot defend themselves, cannot provide for themselves. And I'm not trying to be an enabler, of course not, but we need to be moving in the direction of having shelter, that we are inviting channels for homeless teens to communicate their experiences. Those that have been, and their homes are war zones, have been moved to the streets. disenfranchised and unable to find work because they have no support, they have no family, a safe place that they can come to away from abuse, away from drugs, and providing that secure, perhaps confidential location even year round for a short period of time for our teens, our homeless, to get back on their feet, and partnering with businesses, channeling these individuals that are capable and motivated but have been given nothing into work, and giving them value, telling them that they are worth it, and securing the basic necessities so that they might be reintroduced into the community and thrive. And I think it's very important that we move in that direction. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. George, you're next on this. Would you like me to repeat the question? George, you need to unmute.
I keep forgetting, sorry. Yes, please repeat.
Do you have recommendations that would address the homeless situation, including the large young homeless population in Redmond?
Yes, well, we have been dealing with this problem now for some years. And it's a multifaceted problem. We have homeless that are chronic homeless. We have new homeless, but it seems that, at least for the adult population of homelessness, there are three causes that we've identified. There are those that are mentally ill, there are those that are on drugs, and there's a special group of veterans suffering from PTSD and have just dropped out of society and don't want to deal very much. I went and met with every homeless camp a couple of years ago, and being a veteran myself and a disabled veteran, I was able to meet with them, and at least that veterans group in particular, and directly bond and communicate with them and try and help them understand the issues and how we can solve them. Another facet is this is a regional problem. As Bend a few months ago shut down the camps where they want to start development, that just pushed the homeless to here, Prineville, Madras, and so forth. So it's like a balloon. You push on one side, it pops out on another, and we face that. So it has to be addressed regionally. In terms of the youth, last count I saw on the homeless for youth, we had about 36 high school students that were homeless for various reasons. They were couch surfing, they were staying with friends, they were living in cars, and it's a tragic situation. And we have been working with the homeless advocates to try and figure out ways to deal with this, to include the school district, and they know who those kids are and they deal with them. And one of the final issues we do there is provide the meals program so that at least those kids that are homeless are getting the proper nutrition so they can face a good school day. We're even doing that now during the pandemic. Thanks.
Thank you very much, George. Charles, you're next. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Do you have recommendations that would address the homeless situation, including the large young homeless population in Redmond?
Well, I think George and Tanner both bring up a lot of good points. Unfortunately, I think the homeless problem is a difficult one. I think that the homeless problem gets worse every year. I don't have a solution, unfortunately, for this. I think the state of Oregon does a lot to try to resolve this issue, and I wouldn't try to do more. But I support all the attempts to deal with this issue. It's frankly, first of all, I'm a libertarian, which means I'm for more freedom, less government. So it's not like I'm going to be suggesting that we should spend more money on this issue. But also to put this in a bigger picture contextually, the homeless problem, it is a big problem, but there's a bigger problem. And the bigger problem is overpopulation on the planet Earth. And this is a problem that everybody completely ignores, and the problem only gets bigger. And homelessness is one of the many signs of this problem. Anyway, if I'm elected mayor of Redmond, I will try to discuss the issue of overpopulation on Earth, and I'll try to discuss solutions about this, and I'll try to enact solutions about this, and I will try to deal with this issue as well as the homeless issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. For our next, George, you will be first to answer. At this time, cannabis distribution in Redmond is prohibited per the Redmond City Council after Measure 91 passed 6 years ago. Do you support dispensaries in Redmond? And if so, what action would you take to change the current ordinance?
Okay, the ordinance that you're referring to, as far as marijuana in Redmond goes, was enacted in 1989. And what the ordinance says is that we will not grant a business license to any business that's in violation of state or federal law. Right now, cannabis or marijuana, a THC marijuana, is banned nationally as a Class 1 drug. So it's a functional equivalent at the federal level to heroin. My belief is that the federal government should decriminalize that, make it a Class 2 drug, much like morphine, so that it were managed by the Food and Drug Administration. It would be prescribed by doctors, and it would be dispensed by pharmacists. And that's for medical marijuana. I still do not believe in recreational marijuana that will stay as a Class 1 drug, as I understand it. And so it would not come into ready use in Redmond. There's a woman in the area that does a lot of teaching on this subject. And with youth in particular, there are some pretty strong scientific evidences out there that youth brains are adversely affected by the regular use of marijuana. And I think we have enough problems in our society without adding to the problems by creating situations that kids don't readily handle. I hear about, well, alcohol's legal, why isn't marijuana? Well, alcohol is legal and marijuana is not. And that's my feeling on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Charles, you're next. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
At this time, cannabis distribution in Redmond is prohibited per the Redmond City Council measure, or Redmond City Council after Measure 91 passed 6 years ago. Do you support dispensaries in Redmond? And if so, what action would you take to change the current ordinance?
Yeah, I'm for legalization of pot worldwide. I'm for legalization of pot in Redmond, Oregon. I'm for legalization of growing marijuana in Redmond, Oregon. I'm for legalization of selling marijuana in Redmond, Oregon. I'm for legalization of smoking marijuana in Redmond, Oregon. And I'm going to take this a step further. First of all, in Bend, we did it and it was a big success. And we made a lot of tax money off it. But I'm going to take this a step further. I think that we should not only legalize pot in Redmond completely, but I think we should legalize psilocybin mushrooms in Redmond. And I'm talking, I think in Redmond, we should legalize the growth of magic mushrooms and the sale and the consumption of magic mushrooms. And I think pot and magic mushrooms would make a lot of tax money for Redmond, Oregon. And I think that right now in Bend, what they're doing is they're selling pot online. And that means when pot becomes legal for across the whole country, these companies will be able to make an extremely large amount of money because they'll be, already doing it. And so I just think the upside for legalizing marijuana and psilocybin mushrooms is huge. And I think the downside is minimal. And I think that Bend legalized marijuana and it's been a huge success. And I think that we should legalize marijuana in Redmond, and I think we should legalize magic mushrooms in Redmond. And that's my opinion. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Tanner, would you like me to reread the question?
No, yeah, thank you. So introducing dispensaries into Redmond, I think it's been brought up a lot within our community, and it would appear that there are great points on both sides. People don't want a dispensary on every corner in Redmond, and I agree with that. They're concerned that this is going to be a community with drugs, and that it's accessible. I will say that people are already currently using marijuana products, where they're purchasing it, how they're purchasing it. They seem to be purchasing it in Bend, and so that tax revenue is lost upon our community. So what we need to be doing is looking at the numbers and researching, pulling together the Redmond Police Department, the Bend Police Department, evaluating what has worked, sharing experiences and stories, and building teams, collaborating, and determining if it's suitable that we do. Another piece that I would like to learn about is if we're not purchasing those marijuana products in dispensaries in the public light, where there's accountability and there's particular grade, there's businesses that have reputation and incentives for that product to be of high quality and not what it isn't. If those are being purchased on the streets, I think that is even more dangerous for our children, for recreators. There's also benefits that we need to look into. People sleep better when they use those products. Sometimes there's medical benefits. So having that accessible here in our community is something that I want to look into and research. And I want to get more feedback and more information before we make a decision and go forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On to our next question. Charles, you'll be first. In the past, the Redmond City Council was resistant to Redmond adopting the Welcoming Cities Initiative. Are you for or against this initiative? And do you feel like the Redmond community would benefit from a diversity, equity, and inclusion team?
Absolutely, 100%. Oregon is a very Caucasian state, and it always has been. But we're seeing people of color, Latinos, move to the area, and we should absolutely be welcoming. There's no room for racism anywhere, period, okay? There's no room for racism anywhere in Oregon. And there's no room for racism in our police force. And I don't think there is any racism in our police force. And there's no room for racism anywhere in Central Oregon. And I don't think there is any racism in Central Oregon. And if there is, we need to, say that it's wrong. And we need to say that it's wrong in a very loud voice. And very often, because it is. And I'll tell you something else. If I am elected mayor of Redmond, I will ask the native indigenous tribes of this Central Oregon, the Wasco, the Nez Perce, etc., to tell me how they'd like to rename a few mountains, a few rivers, a few roads, in the Native American language. And I'll be very receptive to that. And I'll probably agree with a lot of their recommendations. And that's how I feel. And thank you very much for the question.
Thank you very much, Charles. Tanner, you're next. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, if you could, Kim.
In the past, the Redmond City Council was resistant to Redmond adopting the Welcoming Cities Initiative. Are you for or against this initiative? Do you feel like the Redmond community would benefit from diversity, equity, and an inclusion team?
So I think it's always useful to be reflecting on yourself as an individual, a family, a community, as a city, trying to understand and improve yourself. I think that we would benefit from an examination periodically within our departments in the city, and as to how we are satisfying the needs of those of all sorts of backgrounds, genders, whatever it is. And that's just as a, not housekeeping, but as an opportunity to learn about your organization and safely examine whether you are achieving those higher principles of inclusion. People feel safe, they feel that they have equal opportunity, that they can approach their bosses, as simple as that, that they feel represented. You know, having served in the Army, and I have many friends of all different races and religions and backgrounds and experiences, I recognize that having been part of these organizations, that is your strength when you can understand somebody and share stories and make people of all different backgrounds feel comfortable being part of the team, being part of something bigger than themselves, and not feel that they're ostracized or not dignified in the city. So I think there's ways to be creative and to invite that type of examination, and we need to be exploring that, not listening, not engaging that discussion when it comes from our own community. I think that's a problem. We need to be listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanner. George, same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
Please.
In the past, the Redmond City Council was resistant to Redmond adopting the Welcoming Cities Initiative. Are you for or against this initiative? Do you feel like the Redmond community could benefit from a diversity, equity, and inclusion team?
Well, first of all, that's a bit of a misnomer. That's not really true. We were not reluctant or resistant. What we did, we did not join the Welcoming Cities group because of some of the restrictions they put on a community. However, we have now for the third year in a row, in fact, just at our last meeting, passed a Welcoming Cities proclamation. So we do believe in welcoming all people to Redmond, and it's very clear in our statements that that is true. If you look at the diversity in Redmond, we have about 13% Latinos, 2% African American, and some other ethnic groups, smaller sizes. We have the most diverse police force in Central Oregon with different races and women represented. So we're quite proud of that. Many of you may not know, but first service, or one of the first areas in the whole United States to integrate, was the Air Force in 1947. My father was in the Air Force. I grew up in the Air Force in my later years, and of course was exposed to all of that all the time. I was in the Army, where we had fully integrated service, and then I worked for Department of Defense for 30 years, where we also had full integration across the board. So I've been a true believer in integration and looking at different groups and diversity my whole life. We are right now in the throes of putting together an equity task force to look into this problem in Redmond, see if there is a problem or if we need to do some education and across the board, look at where we stand in Redmond and then make decisions accordingly. So we are taking active steps right now. I am meeting with the DEI coordinator at Oregon State University later this month. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This next question will be the last question in our rotation, and then we'll go on to final statements. The question is, and this is for Tanner first, what sets you apart from the other candidates for mayor of Redmond?
Thank you, Kim. What sets me apart is my commitment to new ideas, to bringing people that don't know their mayor, that have not participated. It's exciting. This election will have from Redmond a lot of first-time voters that have been re-energized. I want to re-energize these groups that have been disenfranchised, that have not been listened to. I want to engage them. I want to be fully engaged with our businesses. During crisis, I want to be down with them. And I am a business owner, and I can feel their pain. I do have many friends that have families that have been struggling. Their kids are at home playing video games, driving mom and dad nuts. And I want to facilitate that leaning forward into reopening. I want kids at school being developed. You know, sometimes kids going to school, that's the only opportunity that they have to be valued, to be looked in their eyes, for their names to be known, for them to get a decent meal, for them to be inspired. I think it's really important that we have kids back at school, businesses open. Of course, we should do this safely, but we need to be creative. We need to not be scared, to lead, to take calculated risk when COVID is not in a particular area or population. I think that we ought to be opening safely, using preventive measures, encouraging basic hygiene and essentials, washing your hands, not sneezing if you're sick, staying at home. But I think we require leadership in these times, and I will be a very inclusive, engaged, transparent leader that wants to listen and to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanner. George, you're next. What sets you apart from the other candidates for the mayor of Redmond?
Well, in 2 words, knowledge and experience. As I pointed out earlier, and I'll mention again in my closing statement, that I've been mayor for 12 years. I was on council before that. I was born here, spent my formative years here. I know Redmond. I love Redmond. I bring a lot to the table in terms of relationships. You know, it isn't just Redmond that we have to worry about, even though it's certainly our primary focus. We have to look around the state. There are solutions to a lot of these problems that exist in other communities. I've been the president of the Oregon Mayors Association. I was president of the League of Oregon Cities, all 242 cities at that time represented. All kinds of good ideas come from other communities. I say it's very seldom anyone has an original thought. It's always better to take an idea from another community and bring it into Redmond. Yesterday, I gave a Citizen of the Year award. That was based on one I got from the mayor of Sherwood as an idea to uplift the whole community and make everyone feel good about Redmond. As I mentioned, I walk the streets, I go meet with people, I sit down and talk to them. I am a true believer in pursuing living wage jobs, what we call traded sector in Redmond. We've been very successful in bringing companies into Redmond. If people aren't making money and having living wage jobs, we have got a very poor community. And I look around the state where I see communities that, for example, focus on tourism, and those are minimum wage jobs. Those are not living wage jobs. We need in Redmond living wage jobs. That's what I pursue all the time. I meet with companies, anyone that comes to town and wants to move here. And that is my passion, is to try and create a community where people want to live, work, and play. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles, what sets you apart from the other candidates for the mayor of Redmond?
Well, first off, I want to make this very, very clear. I think George Endicott is a great person and a great mayor. And I think Tanner Robertson is a great person, and I think he would make a great mayor, okay? I also think that I'd make a really good mayor as well. And I think whoever wins this election will do a great job and will have my full support, okay? Now, if I am elected mayor of Redmond, okay, I'll have a completely open door policy. Any resident of Redmond can come talk to me about anything at any time, whenever they want. If I am elected mayor of Redmond, I will go to Centennial Park every Monday at noon, as long as there's no snow or ice on the ground, and talk to any resident of Redmond about anything until it gets dark. And it'll be a total open door policy for all residents of Redmond on any issue for any length of time. And so I just want to make that really clear. In fact, you can go to my website, globalinternetgovernment.com, and you can get more information on me, and you can get my contact information, and you can call me up and talk to me about anything you want. All residents of Redmond can call me up and talk to me about anything they want, whenever they want. So I would have a total open door policy, and I'm sure George Endicott has an open door policy, and I'm sure Tanner Robertson would also have an open door policy. Also, I like to think that Redmond can also lead the world, as I've said, in the two most important issues facing us this millennium, number one, environmentalism, and number two, transparency. And I look forward to talking about that a great deal in the future. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And thank you very much, all of the candidates, for answering all of our questions today. We will now start with closing statements. Tanner Robertson, you're first on. 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Ken. So as a young officer, I was able to accomplish building teams and solutions. Not always was I the most experienced in the room. No, I don't think that is the defining moment of a leader, but your ability to connect, to value people of different backgrounds, of different experiences as you, and to aggregate, synergize what you bring to the table and what they bring to the table, to have a greater sum of the effect of your collaboration, your partnership. I think this city needs a new, fresh leader to come in and to explore what has worked, and also what are those great possibilities and opportunities that we haven't delivered on. When we have new families moving into Redmond, and we'll have a lot, we need to be exploring their needs. I think having living wages is directly tied to their ability to satisfy their family's needs, to pay for their mortgage, to pay for their rent, but also having family recreational spaces that are safe for kids to go exercise and to be in community and to be off the streets doing drugs, causing mayhem in our city, I think is really important. And just listening to the people, being engaged, having a dialogue, not always having the answers or the experience, but inviting people to the table that may. I think satisfying that is exciting, and I look forward to serving as your mayor. Please vote Tanner Robertson. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanner. Next is George Endicott for his closing statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I like Tanner's passion. I worry about the level of experience. He was a junior officer in the military for a few years. I spent 30 years in DOD with the equivalent of a colonel. So I was actually a senior leader at Department of Defense for many years, and I'm quite proud of the service I did. I was also in the Army. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm a recipient of a Purple Heart for having been wounded in combat in Vietnam. And I deal with the veterans community constantly, a member of all of the veterans groups here in Redmond, and proud of that. In terms of the city, as I said, I've been mayor for 12 years. If you look at that tenure, we weathered a severe recession. We're now in the throes of dealing with the coronavirus. And I think listening sessions are fine, but you also need leadership. And you need someone that can steer that ship through the rough waters that we're in right now. I think that we have a lot of land inventory. We need to continue to grow and expand Redmond. I have been a strong leader and a hard charger in Salem on land use policy and making sure that we get as much flexibility as we can to be able to develop Redmond. There's a fine balance between providing sufficient housing and providing affordable housing. I deal with both of those on a daily basis, just about. So I think we currently have a comp plan effort underway. We're looking at how we're going to guide Redmond for the next 20 years. We got a briefing on that last night at our council meeting. We'll be discussing that in the next few months. So the opportunity to guide Redmond through the times in the next 20 years is on the horizon. And I think I'm the person to lead Redmond. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Charles, your final statement, please.
Well, first of all, Kim, thank you very much. Again, I'd like to say thank you to the League of Women Voters of Deschutes County. I'd like to again say thank you to George Endicott and to Tana Robertson. My name is Charles Webster Baer, and I'm running for mayor of Redmond, Oregon. And please vote for me. And I've been living in Oregon for the entire millennium. I've been living in Central Oregon for the last 13 years, and I love it, and it's great, and it's going to get better, and I'm very I'd love to be a part of that. And you know, living in Oregon is great, and we all they're saving the planet, and that's great, but it's time to prove it. It's time to stand up, and it's time to lead the world by example right now. It's time for Oregonians to say, look, we're going to chart our own future, and we're going to do things our way, and we're going to do things logically. And it's time for Oregonians, it's time for the people of Redmond to create real leaders by electing them to move into the future with a big picture vision and a lot of common sense and the courage to address these major issues. And I think that's me. So thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you to the candidates for participating in today's forum. And thanks to the League of Women Voters of Deschutes County and City Club of Central Oregon for partnering to get this important information out. Remember, if you enjoyed today's forum and would like to help cover the cost, please consider making a donation to City Club of Central Oregon on their website at cityclubco.org. If you are interested in becoming a member or making a contribution to the League of Women Voters of Deschutes County, please contact the League through their website, LWVDeschutes.org. And again, thank you to our Candidate Forum Series sponsors, the Deschutes Public Library and Buchanan Schmidt LLC. The next Candidate Forum will be Deschutes County Commissioner candidates and will air on Thursday, October 1st at 7 p.m. Please be sure to watch. Check out the City Club of Central Oregon YouTube channel, Candidate Forums, to see all the forums we are presenting this election season. Thank you for your interest and in keeping democracy alive. This was pre-recorded Wednesday, September 30th. Thank you.